Hey everyone, happy Monday. It is a crazy, crazy, wild weekend in the world of Scientology. Boy, there's just been so much happening. I've really been respecting some of the videos that have been coming out, especially from Nora and Serge. And I wanted to look at a clip to kind of get us going on Nora's. She had some pretty tough stuff to say, and I'm going to run that right now. It's just a short little clip. Can you hear that? Can you see that? Am I doing that right? Beep, beep. So I'm not too sure if that came through. I'll double check it later. But apparently, they went to a conference in Portland. I think it was Saturday, Friday or Saturday. Pretty amazing though, where they all talked about all the different cults that are happening in high controlled organizations. So, and then Serge got on and he was talking about how, look, it's time. It's time to crap or get off the pot. It's time to do something. All of these streamers, all the protesters, all of the information that's gone on. And go and watch Nora's live. That was really incredible. I put the link down in the description. She did a good job. She put some pretty good passion behind it, and I give her so much respect. But it's time. You know, Mark Rinder, he talked about when he got out, first thing he did was go to the FBI and drop off files. Uh, Leah Remini, she went to the FBI and dropped off files. Well, what the heck? What is the FBI doing about it? Where does this go? What is all this protesting going to end up being for? It's not doing anything as we speak, except for like little gnats, gnat, 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 psh, brush it off. And yeah, that's good. That's great. But you have to take it a step further. Scientology certainly has. They've stepped it up. They stepped up their attacks, which they say don't defend attack. That's what they've stepped it up. Look, Sean is now at Big Blue and Odo. You have Osa there. You have all of this happening nationwide and even worldwide, that Scientology is stepping up their game. They see it, they smell it, they know something's up. So where do we go from here? What happens? What happens with all this protesting? What happens with all of the comments and testimony going over to LAPD? There's something up with Clearwater coming up. Cultwater's getting ready to do a big one. So I know they put in a request for the Squirrel Squad. Hey, if you can come down, please do. Get a hold of Farrell Cheryl or Lori Plays. They have a lot going on. Excuse my bumpiness on the video. So where do we go from here? What happens now? I've got some ideas. I know I'm going to work with John Poe on the Go, and we're going to do a video of where do we go from here. And I want to lay out a good summary, a good outline of what needs to happen next. I know I plan on tomorrow morning, 9:30 Pacific Standard Time, is the LAPD's police commission meeting. It's every Tuesday morning at 9:30 Pacific time. And they take public testimony, they take public comment, either on the agenda items or non-agenda items. They do have a limit of 3 minutes. I believe it's 2 minutes, but if they don't have any agenda items, they'll take 3, depending on how many people are there. I have something already sketched out that I'm gonna talk about. First thing being, Pinche Becky and how she was mistreated. If you haven't watched that video, that is just absolutely ridiculous. There is no way on God's green earth that that wasn't discriminatory. How do you even justify having there had to have been 4 or 5 police officers and Mr. Contreras, I'm not even giving him the name of Officer Contreras because he doesn't deserve it at this point. He was so freaking rude. Not just rude, but just condescending. And what I must say, he was an asshole. He was a simple asshole. I cannot believe the way she said, "Look, this is what happened. Do you want to see a picture?" He didn't want to see a picture, and he basically just shoved her off. Here, go back to the precinct, talk to the sergeants. And then he finally did change his mind and say she could talk to whoever the control officer was. And then, and he was still very condescending. And then when that Wendell Manning guy walked in, Becky very understandably flipped a lid. She went into protect mode of herself. She absolutely crashed, started crying, and that dude, not the officer, that dude ended up they didn't even they didn't even talk to the guy. They didn't say anything. He said, "Oh, I didn't hit nobody." And he said, "I'm here to look for my belongings, for my personal stuff." And then he walked out. And she asked, she said, "Hey, he must have followed me here. I'm scared. I'm afraid. Can you walk me out to my car?" And that guy didn't even walk, he walked her out to where the door opened and closed. He says, "Look, there's cameras. We'll watch you go to your car." What in the heck? That first of all, maybe you have a policy that you can't walk people to their cars. Go figure, because I see you walk Scientologists to their cars when all those scary protesters are around. What? So I know you can do it, but let's say you do have a policy. How about taking your badge off, setting it down, and being a gentleman, being a man? Put on your frickin' big boy pants and walk her out to the car. That's all it would have taken. That's all it would have taken. And you did nothing. You did absolutely nothing. Was that because she was Latino? Was it because she was older? Was it because she was a lady? Was it because of her beliefs? Because her association with any of the protesters down at the Blue Building? Hmm, I don't know. You tell me, which one of those discriminatory practices w was it just stupidity? Yeah, I'm not too sure which it was either. So, back to my original thing. I have an outline of where we need to go next. And I kind of use this outline whenever I'm working with something. Either it's a big picture or even a small item. This happens to be take down Scientology and get their 501c3 revoked. That's the big picture. So I basically boil things down to the W's: who, what, where, when, and why. And then also throw in a SWOT analysis. Um, strengths, weaknesses, or opportunities and threats on what's already been done. And I know that's something that John Poe and I are going to go through, so I'm not going to go too extensive with it. But we can definitely take a look at least on how to get started. The main part that I'd like to talk with Poe is about the where you go for your municipal, regional, federal, local governments in those opportunities. The first thing you need to do, and a lot of us have already been there, but some of us new never-ins, never really researched what needs to happen or what has happened. You know, looking at the Scientology Money Projects, all of his information, he has an incredible blog of historical data, historical cases, what's happened, what's become of it. He has a pretty good blog of all the information. Looking at Mark Bunkers, all of his old emails, all of his old posts and videos. He's got a pretty extensive library of it. Tori Magoo. Tori has some great historical knowledge of what has happened in the past and what's become of it. I mean, we know bottom line what's become of all of it is nothing. Is that, you know, maybe it's been eating away here and there, but it hasn't taken them down yet. And I've done a couple of videos already on the past history and where we are, especially with the 501c3. So that's all stuff that we need to look at and search. I'm going to go to my document here. You're going to identify the target. When you're looking at the target of Scientology, it's not just the Church of Scientology. As I've mentioned in the past, you're looking at least 50 organizations that they have. Almost all of them are tax exempt. Some of them aren't even incorporated, though. But they have at least over 50 of them, and that is on purpose to make it confusing. You never know who sue or take a look at, or who's not meeting what requirements because it's so confusing. The organizational chart for those businesses is just unreal. It's like a huge spider web. So then, to use their language, you have to find what their best ruin is. You know, is it PR? Is public relations? Yep, that'll help. Public relations will take it down. You have to know where you can fit yourself in for the public relations. Is it their financial status, the 501c3? Yep, that's a good portion of it. It could be financial crimes. It could be technicalities in their paperwork. That's been pretty well covered over the years. People have looked at that with a fine-tooth comb. Pretty hard to get into that. Here, I should probably pop that up. Let me see if I can get that up on the screen. We're going to stop that screen. We are going to share a screen, select a window. Okay, let's see. Oops, sorry about that. Dogs are barking. Oh, he's a noisy one. So I'm looking at identifying the organization and trying to find their best ruin. You know, what is the strength and weaknesses of it? When you're looking at the best ruin, and what crimes have they committed? When you're looking at this, in my opinion, when you're looking here, let me pull up this other one. Oh, that's okay. So when you're looking at that, You have to see that the strengths and the weaknesses of looking at a PR campaign. Well, the Scientology is pretty darn good about their PR. They know where their strengths are. They know where their media is. They don't know current media, but they know what's been successful in the past. When you're looking at the financial crimes, they've got that kind of covered too. They really suckered their way into it. They bought their way, and that's as nice as I can be, through the IRS. And honestly, in some of their agreements that they signed, at the settlement that they signed, it's going to be harder than heck to get an audit open through the IRS. Almost impossible. So the only way, really, and we've discussed this in the past, is to go through their criminal and illegal activities, and also public policy. So let's look at their criminal and illegal activities. Child abuse, aggregated abuse, child physical abuse, mental abuse, sexual abuse. So when you're looking at those three things, and neglect, those are pretty, if you can get in, make claims, and bring receipts. It's kind of what Nora was just talking about. She was talking about that you need to start speaking up. You, the people that have been in this, you, the children that have had physical, mental, and sexual abuse, starting to speak up, putting their receipts out there, and getting this going. That's really the next steps of what has to happen. It's so easy to get the feels going. I can go do public comment. I can work with the LAPD. I can work with the OIG. I can even call the FBI. I have called the FBI, and I've talked with them. And putting it out there for the feels, you can bring on the feels. You can bring it on, but just having stories without receipts basically is just a sad story, just something to bemoan. So unless you bring receipts, there's not much we're going to be able to do. We're not going to be able to take them down. But once we have those receipts, once we have some depositions and some information and some concrete steps that they can't ignore, there's no going back for Scientology ever. They can't go back. They cannot be held as a community organization, as a nonprofit organization. They can't be held to that if they have those high crimes. Those crimes, even if there was one. So we need to have people start bringing some receipts in. It's going to be scary. It's going to be messy. But those are our next steps. Tomorrow morning, as I said, tomorrow morning is the LAPD commission meeting, and I'm going to be bringing that up to them, bringing up the fact that these receipts are coming, and they're going to be held. They've been complicit in my eyes, because I've never really talked to the police commission themselves about this. So in my eyes, they've had their head in the sand. So they've been complicit. But tomorrow they're going to hear the words that there is an abuse that's going to happen every single day. Over there at the Blue Building, it's being hidden every single day. Now they're going to be culpable and accountable for those claims. There's no reason, none whatsoever, that they cannot be held responsible, the commissioners themselves, for listening to the truth and have it to where they can close their eyes any longer. So many people have brought this forward. So many people. Look, what are these protesters doing? They're talking about today, MD Media 18 was out there. The police show up. William or Odo or whatever the security guard's name is, files a hate crime. Come on, it's not a hate crime. How can it be a hate crime? When you're shouting to the rooftops about rape, violence, abuse, neglect to children, how is that a hate crime? To expose the truth. That's not a hate crime. That's a proclamation of love. Straight to the heavens, that's a proclamation of love. And there's no reason on God's green earth that the LAPD or any police department should and could associate that with the hate crime against religious activities, because those religious activities are just a door, just something to hide behind to get past their child abuse. That's all it is. Just a way to hide it. That's pretty awful. So, next steps. Hey, Windy City Thayton. Exactly. I agree. Log and document all interactions. Never assume someone else will call. Kind of that's what I'm doing. I'm not assuming anybody else has called or will call. Everybody needs to take the actions. You can't say, look, Nora did it, or Nora's doing it, or Liz Ferris is doing it, because look at the issue she's having, or Lara. Come on. They've become public. They've become public eyes and faces. But you can't say, I agree with that, pup groomer, with that there can't be any complaints about the community. They're supposed to be good for the community, but in true eyes, what they're looking at, what the IRS is looking at, one, they put it in that last agreement when they got their tax exemption back. They signed an agreement that the New York Times finally exposed. They leaked it. And so the problem is that without just due cause of a criminal activity, they can't even open up an audit on Scientology. Go figure. So they can't get in that route. IRS can't even open up an audit. So everybody outside of IRS screaming and hollering, the protesters saying, revoke their tax exempt status. They're this, they're that. It has to be proven that they have illegal activity or public policy failure. So it is a requirement for the exempt, but unfortunately, that last IRS commissioner made that agreement. So not much we can do on that. And it takes almost an act of God for the IRS to audit books. And there really aren't too many books to audit, because most of those, the 50 or so organizations, don't have to file 990s. There's only a couple of them that have to file 990s. If one of the 990s that I looked at, and sorry, going off on a rabbit trail here, but one of the 990s, I think they had $5,000 worth of gross income for the year. Well, we all know that's just ridiculous, but that's all it had. So it's definitely a web of organizations that are lied and have incorrect. And I'm sure they all have 990 audits, but not the IRS audits. And that's what we need. So the only way the IRS can take away their status is for us to bring the receipts, not just the feels, not just hurt their feelings, but we need to bring the receipts of illegal activity and bad public policy. That's what we need to do. I've worked with Serge and Nora, and I personally have submitted a claim to the FBI, as I said, against it's not to the FBI, it's to the Department of Justice, their Office of Inspector General, and I'm claiming harm and claiming discrimination from the FBI because the FBI has looked at Mike Rinder's claim, Leah Remini's claim. They've looked at, I believe, even Miriam's claim, and everything's been dropped. How does that happen? How in the world does that happen with everything that's been put? There's no reason that the FBI, and if they are still looking at it, I love the way Nora said it. Shit or get off the pot. Come on, FBI, have some common sense. Let's deal with this. But I think it's time. So I have another little Monaism. If you want something really bad, you make it happen. If you don't, you make an excuse. If we really, really want this to happen, each of us needs to take the responsibility to do whatever it's going to take to make it happen. We can't make an excuse, and you can't say, oh, somebody else will do it. You can't pass the buck. We each have to do it. And I'm a never in. I I don't have I don't have a stake in the game. I don't have skin in the game, except for the fact that, you know what? When Michael and Serge and I hang up the phone, when we're talking or we're calling, I say, "Love you, bye," because I feel like I know him. I feel like I love him. I have love for my fellow human being. So, yep, you guys are right, and you're spot on. We definitely need to email, call, post. You know, I think if anybody's there in LA, I think Becky is going to do comment in the morning at the police commission meeting also. So if anybody can go to show up to support her, that would be fabulous. It's at 9:30. I can post the link to where the meeting is. I'll put that in my comments here in just a minute. But we definitely need to show her some support. And if you can do public comment, that would be great too. Windy City, are you still on? I have a lot of thoughts about what you guys can do. I'm from the Michigan area, and my cousin lives in Chicago, so I'm kind of familiar with it. But I would love to sit and do a strategy on how you can good, on how you can take them down out of Chicago too, because they have a little bit of similarities to what LA has. Unfortunately, I think Chicago has more of a mafia tone rather than just a relationship, a good old boy relationship tone. Um, I've lived in Alaska for so many years. Yeah, and you guys can call in to the police commission meeting too. They have a Zoom. You don't show your face, but you can call in and do public comment on the phone too. So, Windy City, I would love to sit down. I saw a cap in my neighborhood, but I can't find the South Loop schedule for a community action plan. Is that what you're talking about, Winnie? So in my honest opinion, everything I've looked at for the Chicago area, you can have those that are wanting to. I don't know how big of a protesting or how big your group is there to be trying to go to all the smaller meetings. Okay, so basically the same thing. Um, but honestly, they need to go top down. And the OIG of LAPD, the OIG director, used to work with the accountability reform in Chicago. So that may be something that we can bounce back and forth and we can work them off from one another. Oh, that's a bum. Sorry, pup. That's a problem, but I think for Chicago just we need to go through this list. We need to see who we need to infiltrate. We need to see what we need to do, where those meetings are if there are meetings. But we need to identify the source first. We need to identify. No, I don't think I have your email, but I would love to. Yes, I do. I did email you. That's right. Yep. So we need to look at the strategy. Yeah, sometimes I have a real hard time talking because I get my brain works 1,000 miles a minute and my mouth has a hard time keeping up. But I can put things on paper and I can put strategies and plans. And of course, I'm not there in Chicago, but I can more than help you figure out where you want to go, what you need to do, and where the problem is, because targeting that problem is the main battle. There may be more than one sore spot. There may be more than one canker sore that we need to take care of. But in the meantime, just figuring it out is half the battle. Cool. I'm in. Thank you. Yep, I know. There's a couple of spots that, Clearwater, I don't think that they have the negative um LAPD issue or the Chicago issue. Chicago's just incredibly dug in. I think like the Clearwater area that's just the way it's been. So that's normalcy. Who wants to change unless you have to change? If you look at corporate psychology, in corporate psychology, corporations, big businesses, all the way down to families and people, nobody changes until you have to or you want to. So either you have to throw that carrot out there to where they want to, whether they're going to get a great return on investment, a good pat on the back, more votes, more money. That's the impetus to make the change. Or they're going to fight like hell and dig their heels in because they don't want to, because we're making them change. Sometimes that's the fun way, but it's not always the fun way. As I said, businesses, people, they don't want to change unless they have to. It's too hard. It's too much money. That's been happening, Wendy. That's been happening in every city. Yeah, AK girl, are you in Alaska right now? So honestly, organizing is probably not the way right now because there's so much organization and political um, groups that are happening right now that the feds are starting to come down real hard, especially with all of the starts with the T word, ER stuff that was happening in the past. And so they've brought in those new laws, and they would be too easy to get caught up in. This is something that Scientology and the government crowdsourcing has been for like funding for the last 10 years or so, but crowdsourcing for sleuthing and and sourcing and solving problems, this is really new. They just don't know how to deal with it. And I think we as a community, I was looking at all the different people that were showing um Becky's video of what happened to her the other day. There were 500,000 views on all the different videos. They don't have a clue how to deal with this. They have no idea. This is all brand new. We're in a brand new world here. So, yeah, Clearwater, as I said, it's different. It's Clearwater needs to the change. It's going to be strategic and it's going to be slow. It could be soon, but that would take a drastic move. But it's just like it took a little bit for it to get in there, it's going to take a little bit for it to get out. So unless something happens nationally that it gets shut down, wouldn't that be a blessing? That would be really nice. Yep. That would be so cool if something happened nationally and just none of us had to worry about this and boop, it was gone. That would be nice. But until then, we need to look at different goals on how to get rid of them. Just kind of reverse their process. And to, for do you know, Pup Groomer, what is that Feral Cheryl has been looking for everybody to come? Do you know what's happening this next week or something? Apparently there's some conference or award thing that they need to have all the protesters there. I agree, Wendy, that it is becoming the information's getting out there and it's tickling ears. But when you get into places like Chicago, I know you know exactly what I'm going to say. That tipping point has nothing to do with tickling somebody's ears or making them cry. It's all about the dollar. Uh, so it's all about the dollar and it's all about who pays me the mostest, gets the bestest, gets the fastest. Um, Unfortunately, that's just the way it's been in the Chicago area. You get, and I can't say, and I'm not going to be political one way or the other, because that doesn't really have anything to do with it. When you're looking at green, doesn't matter if you're red, blue, pink, purple, or orange. It's all about the green. So we need to figure out in Chicago how to cut that off. Yeah, they have a center down in Vegas, I think. But I don't think they have anything up in Nevada area up there. But you're probably lucky. So that's what I wanted to really just come on and talk about is what are the next steps? How do we look at what Nora and Serge and Liz Ferris, they're all harping, let's get this going, let's figure this out. When do we want this to end? When do we want something to happen? And if you go into uh but you go into these things and you beat the dead horse or you keep beating it up and it just gets, yeah, Chicago's a little bit closer to me than LA, so I have to kind of watch my stuff. One of these days, as soon as I can, I'll tell my little story. Actually, I could tell this story because it has nothing to do with Scientology. So the FBI called me the other day, and as you guys know, I'm stuck here in bed. I blew my shoulders out, and I'm a paraplegic, so I use my wheelchair and I use a manual wheelchair, and I'm a very athletic paraplegic. I play hockey, I bike, I do all sorts of stuff out of my chair. And so I was on the phone with FBI the other day, and he was just a rude jerky jerk. And I explained to him what was going on, and he said, well, you're not the person you're not the victim. You are just a third party. So we need for you to mail in the information, mail in your complaint. I said, well, I can't mail it in. I'm stuck in bed right now. I said, I'd like a reasonable accommodation. As a person with disability, there's a lot of people with disabilities on this forum, so I know you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I said, as a reasonable accommodation, I would like it if I could have an email address to where I could just email you the documents that I have and whatever information I have. And he so rudely said, well, you obviously answered your phone so you can use your hands. Ooh, smoke out the top of my head. That I was ticked. Oh, I get you, pup. I understand that. I live in the cornfields. Yeah, it's amazing what kind of a scam this is. So anyways, I revised my claim and I put it out and talked with surgeon and them about it. Resubmitted back to the Department of Justice. And then I sent another claim in for his rude ass behavior, very discriminatory behavior that he did. Um, One, you always consider a reasonable accommodation, and two, come on, it wouldn't have cost him a darn thing to have him do a Gmail account to where I could send him the documents. So whatever, but I put in a federal claim for him too, just because don't piss off a grandma. Doesn't happen on my watch. Don't piss off a grandma. So with that, next steps, I believe, are we need to work together on those that were victims. I guess victim's a bad word, but you know what I mean. Those that were affected by Scientology as children, physical, mental, and sexual abuse, even financial abuse, employment abuse. They need to start making claims, and I will put the link again down in the description. And then us as Neverends, we need to start looking at where we can get involved in our local areas. And I know Poe was really wanting me to give um, information on who to contact. I can't do that because there's people from all 50 states plus around the world. So there's no way I can give you information of every single city, town, and state. But I can tell you where to look for it. So that's the next thing. Wendy, I think I'm going to take a little bit of a break here today, but I will definitely give you an email tonight. So that way maybe we can hook up tomorrow and talk tomorrow afternoon. With that, you guys, I thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate it. And if you could help me by getting my channel out so that way I can get more people on here. I'm trying to get it up to where I can at least, I mean, I can live now, but at least hit the 1,000 mark. That's a goal anyways. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I will talk to you guys. Wendy, I will get you an email again. Okay, you guys, I'm gonna thank you. I appreciate it. I'm going to end the stream. We're at 45 minutes. Night for now.